got a bunch of folks here. I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Allie to get us started.
Yeah, thank you for joining, everyone. And I think some others might trickle in. We're posting our favorite product in the list here if you haven't already. But I'm Allie, and I'm with Product Board, and we're so psyched that you joined today. We're joined by our partner, New Haircut, to run a terrific session with us around problem framing. Super interested in your feedback after the session. At Product Board, we'd love to run more sessions like this if you find them helpful. And whether you're a current customer or just heard of Product Board and heard of this event, we're psyched you're here and we're psyched to have you. So thanks for coming.
Thank you, Allie. Excited to be here. Yeah, a couple more people are just drifting in, but we'll get started. Okay. Who will be brave and come off mic and tell me what this thing is right here? What is this thing?
Is that the salt shaker thingy, Bobby?
You've seen it.
I might have. Sorry, did I ruin it? I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. I mean, did anyone else that's not seen this thing, were you thinking salt shaker? Because it's got a display. What else does it have? It's got a dial, a mode button. I don't know what that means. Ergonomic design.
Alexa or like Google Home thing.
Right.
Yeah, right. Because it's got like the speaker and the Bluetooth. Yes, it is a smart salt dispenser. Interesting. Does anyone have one of these?
Negative.
Why not?
Doesn't solve a problem that I have.
Okay. Because the glass thing with the metal top with the holes in it is good enough, probably.
Yep.
This is a real product. We did not make it. But it exists, and the story behind it, it's been funded on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, one of those. And it was built by an engineer or maybe a small team of engineers. I don't know much more about the story behind it, but the fact that it's out there in the world and it exists, for me, is a good reason that problem framing must exist in this world. Because this thing, a salt shaker that would light and a Bluetooth speaker that you can speak to and ask Alexa to dispense a teaspoon of salt, that is actually in the advertised commercial. Just, man, I don't know where we were going with things here. It's the problem with lacking problem framing is that we don't get clear on the problem, and we start to make up problems that are important to us. And we object those out into the world and assume that everyone has these problems. And then we wind up with these Frankenstein products that solve many problems, but ultimately don't solve an important problem for the market. And so I was excited with Taylor today to show you guys a little bit about what problem framing is all about. And to do that, to get started, I thought we would just have a little bit more fun. Besides making fun of the smalt here. That's what this is called, the smalt, because it's very smart. And I want to drag us down here. I'm going to stop sharing and go back into our toolbox so we can do this all together. By the way, sorry, we glossed over the fact that butter may be new for a bunch of you. Has anyone ever been in a butter session before? You can use the, no, I see Ben shaking his head. So over to the left here, there's some reactions. So feel free to use these throughout the session. If you agree with things, disagree, if you're feeling excited, all good reactions off to the left here. And then there's this little Q right below it. So if you have a comment or a question, feel free to interrupt me. And then of course there's the chat as well. So welcome to Butter. It's a really fun tool. We've been doing our best to replace it from all the Zoom fatigue that we experience as well. So welcome to Butter, welcome to Miro as well. And what we're doing right now is there's actually this integration between the two, which lets us hang out and talk while also being inside of a Miro board. Works the same for Mural as well. So what I wanted to do, oh, and if you need some help along the way, just feel free to use the chat or the queue, and Taylor and Allie will come to the rescue. Let's move down our little circle here into section number 2, crossing the threshold. And I just want to invite you to, if you don't live in the States, I think a lot of folks were joining today were from the States, but if you're outside of the States, this is what, oh, thank you, Taylor. This is what our recycling bins look like. Near and dear to my heart, I was an environmental science major. I would like you to design a better recycling bin. So grab if you didn't grab it already, or if you can, just grab a pen, little piece of paper, and spend 1 whole minute designing a better recycling bin.
I think I see our first drawing. It looks like it might have pedals. So we have at least like additional features, which is cool.
Okay.
And maybe cat ears. I'm not sure what those are.
Now you're just being mean.
But they double as cat ears.
Perfect.
All right, let's see. More cat ears coming in hot from Valerie. Oh, that's a lid. Okay. No one knew that they were getting signed up to be made fun of for this workshop, did they?
If any consolation, Jay will inevitably make fun of me at some point too, so it's fine.
True facts. Okay, got it. So this one, cool. Okay, so Valerie's has a lid. This might be a wheel. I like that everyone's just defaulting to the Miro drawing tool. I guess sometimes that's just easier. Okay, let's see.
Right.
Jean's rocking it right now.
Put some wheels. And
Wheels
a robot
seems
antenna.
Wheels is the big upgrade, because this thing, you have, like, what I do is it's filled and I just kick it down my driveway. So wheels would be better.
Mine's not going to be apparent here, but my only upgrade is to increase the size of that thing. Otherwise, it's perfect.
Hey, Brenna. Okay, Brenna, if you drew a picture offline, that's perfect.
Yep.
Take a picture of it.
Got it.
Email it to yourself.
Cool.
And then when it's on your desktop, just drag it right into the board.
Got it. Okay. Thanks.
Awesome. Okay.
Really, I'm
yeah, cool. So some common themes here. It's on wheels. It's got a handle, a handy handle. This one has gotten colored so far, so it's getting upgrades in the background. Okay, so cool. Thanks for doing that. If you didn't do it, it's okay as well. If you're still working on your design, that's okay as well. You can drop it in there whenever. So I want to drag us down here now into section number 3. So I'm going to huddle us all down here. So why was this challenging, or why was this unfair, you might say? Grab a pink Post-it. Why was this hard? Why was me asking you to redesign the recycling bin unfair? Let's see. What do we got, Taylor? It's true. At some point in my life, I decided to be a lefty, but I use my right hand with my mouse. So I am completely incapable of using a mouse to do anything other than move stuff around. I'm an artistic spaz. This is actually, I appreciate the humility here, but I want to talk about this one in a sec.
Lack of problem to solve.
It solves a simple problem fairly well. Interesting.
Interesting. We didn't talk about why it needed to be redesigned.
Yeah.
What was the problem?
Didn't think anything was wrong with it, like our salt shaker.
Ooh, this one's interesting. Where's the customer located? NYC-based, wheels aren't as necessary. That's true. When I lived in a 5th floor walk-up, I didn't really need wheels in my recycling bin.
Yep. Like a typical American, I just assumed every recycling bin was blue and had a white logo on it. And then when I was Googling images to put on the board, I was like, wait, this one's yellow, this one's red.
Yeah.
Mine's green.
Is it?
That makes sense.
Our recycling company won't pick up anything that's not in a blue bin, even if it's like something that you made with tape and staples. As long as it's blue, they pick it up. So these are great. I actually just want to talk really quickly. Who had the artistic spaz?
That was me.
Who's me? Sorry, I can't
Kate.
see her. Kate?
I'm Kate.
Okay. So Kate, talk to me about that. Part of the problem was what? What are you trying to say here?
So just yeah, I can't draw with the mouse, and I'm new to the tool, so
Okay.
wasn't sure what I was doing.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Because what I wanted to call out too was sometimes this fear of visualizing our ideas comes up in these kinds of contexts. I think what you're more talking about is just like the tools themselves got in your way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So in general, I guess some of the themes that are coming up is the problem wasn't clear. Who's it for? No pattern to help, right? So about like context and things. So this is just a simple fun game, but how does this stuff show up in the actual work that we do? What does that look like?
Clients have ideas.
The first two words. Uh-oh, clients getting attacked right away.
Clients have ideas. I love that.
Damn clients. Chaos.
Fix something. Yeah, chaos. Who had chaos? Say more about that. Chaos person is shy, I guess. Cool. Roger that, Caitlin. Cool.
There's the tool. I was like, I'm getting used, in the associative phase here, trying to learn this new tool. No, I think that with chaos, it's just like, as a lot of people have mentioned, clients have problems that they think that they have solutions for. But I think as a product manager, it's our idea, or like, and it's hard sometimes to sound out the noise and figure out what is the 80-20 rule, what is going to meet 80% of our customers' needs. And sometimes it's not a one-fits-all solution, but I mean, there's so much to weigh in terms of revenue, operational cost, efficiency and everything. So it just, if you don't have a problem or a clear-cut problem that you're solving for and set requirements, then it can just lead to absolute chaos and lack of adoption.
I'm even hearing in there too, Caitlin, like maybe just even getting people's attention too. Like if you can't just get the problem out, people are just going to move on to the next thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And a lot of the times too, I feel like it ends up like, just keep it simple, stupid. Like we try to make things very complex that actually don't solve a problem. Like as I had said in the chat, like what the heck was that mood light for on that salt shaker? Was it for the salt or the human? Like what was that supposed to solve,
Yep.
So,
Yeah. And then what happens? Actually, let's build on that. Like I'm looking at this sticky right here. Okay, unclear problem, but it's important to us and we want people, right? And so we start chasing solutions, right? And then that's when the mood light gets added to the salt shaker.
And then we waste resources and spend a lot of money that we probably didn't need to spend.
Yeah. I love that people are upvoting these things. That's awesome. Unclear direction. From who? Where does direction come from? Who wrote that one? Where should it come from? Caitlin, you have to help everyone navigate how to get off mute. Yeah, bias rush to solution. I'm going to bring this one up here. Yep. Lack of data to support a solution.
Interesting.
That's one that we were just talking about in LinkedIn yesterday.
Yeah.
Sales sold a better bin that doesn't actually exist yet. Yeah. Okay. So selling solutions. Yep. Cool. Yeah, these are great. And also equally frustrating. I'm sure there's some like emotion and pain surfacing as you're thinking about these things. Feel free to continue to jot these in here. They're super helpful for us to think about as well. I'm going to move us down and just do a little bit of like talking for a second. And then the plan is to show you a quick activity that you can use within the problem framing, like within all of the tools of problem framing to help align the team and figure out what problem you actually want to work on. So let me bring us right here. I'm in section 4. And if anyone has picked up on it, what we're doing in this workshop is following the hero's journey. Okay, so here's our friend, the small, right? And so the problem with problem solving is probably the word solving. And so some of you, what you were pointing out was bias towards solution. And I get the intention there. I was a software engineer for a long time, and it's like, just tell me what you want me to build already. right? And like I'm getting paid based on how much code I ship. So spending all this time on like problem discovery is not where most people want to be. It's weird, it's abstract, and it's not the solution when we all want to talk about the solution. So, but when we jump to it, we get smalts that we start shipping, right? And so why get this thing out of the way? I think like this expression is something that we see a whole bunch in the product community, fall in love with the problem, not the solution. But it's so much easier said than done, because solutions are more fun to work on than understanding the problem, because people typically come to the conversation armed with like 5 ways to solve a problem because they've been working on it or they've been working in the industry for a really, really long time. And anything that's not solution oriented feels like I'm dragging you back through the mud, right? So it feels like we're wasting time, because in our minds, what we've assumed is that I know what the problem is, so everybody else must know what the problem is. But stakeholder X is thinking about the problem in a different way. Stakeholder Y is thinking about fixing the problem for a different customer segment. And then we just kind of carry that through with all that sort of like confirmation bias without really checking in on what the problem is. And speed is also a big problem. Like Taylor's actually been doing a lot of great work in the background talking about like figuring out why speed is so challenging. And a lot of it is like this need to be busy, or it's not productivity. It's a lot of frenetic busyness.
Like performative busyness.
Performative busyness. That's awesome. So then, like problem framing, if it feels like we're dragging people backward, and the way that I think about problem framing and the way that like Taylor and I, when we go into a company and do problem framing, it takes like 2 or 3 half-day sessions to get through a lot of that. And that can feel like we're going backwards. So, like, I guess we've been working at this for millions of years to just jump into solutions. And if speed is not on our side, then how can we do this a little bit more quickly? So that's why we've been calling this workshop, and some of the exploration that we're doing is like, how can we speed up, not the problem solving, but the problem understanding piece or the alignment piece, right? Those two kind of like work hand in hand. So if we don't do that, what happens? So why change? Well, so like typically the process goes something like, let's build solutions that solve for our customer. But in a lot of groups that we work with, we get sales and engineering sort of intercepting what the customer is actually asking for, right? And so I think one of the post-its was selling the recycling bin. Sales already sold the recycling bin with wheels, perhaps, right? So like we immediately get abstraction between the market that we're solving for and the proxies in between. And so customer problems quickly shift into company problems because we immediately start thinking about revenue, cost savings, all those typical metrics that we measure. And so in come the problem solvers. So like we're already like 3 levels abstracted from the customer who's looking for the solution. And in comes the problem solving team, and their mission is to solve the problem. And they're probably thinking like, what the hell is the problem to begin with? But again, we don't have a process for doing that, for having these conversations. It feels like we're going to waste people's time. I'm tasked with just like moving forward and making progress. So we jump into like, well, let's just build the MVP, and then we'll learn at that point, and then we can iterate and pivot our way out of it. But if anyone has ever been in a design sprint, which is a week-long process, textbook version of it, and if you've been in that and you've put forward an idea, which you've sketched out in like an hour and then turned it into a prototype, that prototype came about in the span of like a business day. And someone comes in and challenges your ideas, and you're digging your heels in. Forget iterating an MVP that took a team of people 3 to 6 months. You can't even get people to change their minds after a 1-hour working like brainstorm session. So that iteration is a slippery slope. And so like, of course, if we're confused about what we're building, obviously the market's going to be confused with it. And so then when we do, we kind of start all over. So what Taylor and I wanted to teach you today is just a quick format for bringing the team together. It uses a tool from the problem framing toolkit called abstraction laddering. And so let's look at what it looks like. So in a typical case, if we were redesigning not a recycling bin, but a can opener, and my challenge to you, so I'm your executive vice president, and I say, okay, new marching orders, go design a better can opener. So without understanding the problem, we just drop into, okay, how are we going to do that? We bring in our engineers and our designers, and they make it pink and put a bow on it, right? And then we ship that, and maybe it sells more because it's the recycling bin with wheels. That's cool. But what if first the only thing we did is ask, why is this important to begin with? Sounds simple. Most of this stuff sounds overly simple than what it is, but just roll with it for a second. So what if instead of design a better can opener and jumping into the how, we jumped into the why? So we go up the abstraction ladder by asking, why is this important? Okay. And maybe we ask in tandem, who is it for? So why are we doing this and for who? And ultimately what we're trying to do is maybe get soup out of a can. In one scenario, we're trying to get soup out of a can. Oh, okay. Now I understand the actual problem that we're trying to solve. This is an internal problem. Sell more can openers, make it prettier, make us differentiated. But what we're actually trying to do and what's important to our market is to get soup out of a can. Okay, now that that's clear, now we can drop back down into how and figure out new, different, better solutions to that, right? And we get the pull lid. That's really what abstraction laddering is all about. It's before you drop into how and solution thinking, bring your group together for 30 minutes and just ask, why is this important? And see what comes of those conversations. So we're just going to practice this because I know it seems overly simple. Most of this stuff always does until we put it in practice. And then asking 30 minutes of people's time is challenging enough. So we're gonna use the abstraction ladder here. This is just an example of it. And then in a sec, we're going to put you in some pods to have fun in groups of 5, and you can do this together. So the problem is the problem. It hasn't changed. I want you to design a better recycling bin. But instead of adding wheels and a lid, first ask, why is this important? So go up the ladder. Each person will be able to fill in a pink sticky. And a good prompt to think about why is in order to. So why is this important? In order to whatever you come up with. Each person can start there. Then you can vote on the one based on nothing, based on what you're thinking and feeling. Maybe recycling is near and dear to your heart as well. And once you have your winning why, then try to figure out what a new potential solution could look like. So drop down into the how. And you can start that statement by thinking, we could. So design a better recycling bin. Why? In order to this, how are we going to do that? We could do this thing, build that thing, create that thing. That's all that abstraction laddering is. As simple as it is, it's a tool to really, really quickly bring alignment and conviction and sort of clarity on the problem that you're trying to solve. And maybe sometimes what you come out of this is you realize that you're working on an unimportant problem. So let's try this. We're going to put you into pods. For 15 minutes? So you can just have some fun doing this in groups of 5. Your pods will be down here. I don't think we need this many pods. So depending on which pod you're in, just use the related grouping.
Yeah, there'll only be 3. So just use that top row.
Cool.
All right, we ready to go?
Let's see what you guys come up with.
Cool.
So just sort of reflecting on what happened there. And then the last 5 minutes, just to wrap up, we've got some parting gifts for you so that you can try this out on your own, especially if you're in a leadership position. Giving this for your team to work on would be great. So I wanted to bring us up to section 6 and just kind of reflect back on what just happened. So my first question for you is, what are you noticing in terms of what was different from the first thing that we did, redesign the recycling bin, to using this simple little tool? What changed?
So the biggest thing, and I was going to talk about this. Oh, you want us to write it down, don't you?
Yeah, I do. But then I'm going to call on you since you're volunteering. Is it Teo or Teo?
Teo, yeah. I don't know how to write an accent in most of the tools, so I just answer to whatever.
All good. Let's see what we got. Separating the why versus the how in an explicit way. Yeah. Go ahead, Teo. I'll just, what were you going to riff on?
Yeah, so I noticed, like we said, the original problem statement was design a better recycling bin, and that's more of a directive as opposed to an actual problem. And it was something I was thinking about when you were talking about the problem laddering, was it? You start with this directive and you ask the questions to figure out what the actual problem is. And whenever I do that, I always like to circle back to say, okay, well, what was our original problem and what's the actual problem that we're trying to solve? Which really gets you to the same place, but at least then you're modifying the starting point so that you have an actual problem to solve rather than just a directive with some whys. I always tend to look at what's the problem we're trying to solve and why is it actually valuable to solve.
So you're getting at it, but my next question is, why is a directive not the place to start?
Because it assumes a solution.
What else?
It doesn't understand why you're solving the problem.
Yeah. And for the team, what's wrong with the directive? What else is there?
No context.
Yeah. Or like maybe no ability to be creative. Like I'm a talented individual. Like, don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to do. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Also, I was talking with a colleague of mine, and we were laughing at the fact that most of this boils down to is we're all just overgrown children.
It's true.
What else do we have in here? Okay, so what else was different? Defining the actual problem to solve. Yeah. Oops. Really easy to break down the problems and brainstorm solutions. Helps with prioritizing the problems. Yeah, so like I don't know. I know this is just like a fun little workshop that we're doing, but like when I read this sticky here, really easy to break down the problems and brainstorm solutions. Where my mind goes to is like, will this work in the real world though? Like redesigning a recycling bin, cool, got it. But how would we apply this in the work that we would do? Like, will this carry through? And then like the question immediately following that is like, what will still get in the way? Where will this break down? Why won't this work? And I'm like, we have like a different range of folks that are here with us. So like, if you're in the work, if you're like a product manager, I'm curious to hear how you're thinking about this in terms of like having the problem so that you can do the work. And then we're also interested to hear, as someone that's setting direction, what are you trying to like get the team to do by giving them not directives, to use Teo's, but like really important problems to solve? So like, what am I asking you to do? I've given you a lot right there. So like, what are we noticing? Okay, so how's that going to look in the actual work that we're doing, and what's still going to get in the way? So let's see. I keep on going back to this one. Really easy to break down the problems and brainstorm solutions. Okay, whoever wrote that one, what will that look like? How will you apply it in the work that you actually do? What would you do differently, having gone through this practice?
Well, I think that what it does is like I said, you're able to discern what the problems that carry the most weight, but then you have to go back to the board and start validating that this problem, number one, does exist. What are the risks and considerations that you have to weigh here? And that's where the product work comes in. That's where all of the research comes in to make sure that you are validating, like I said, the problem and the solution that you're looking to create, and that it will appeal to the marketplace. So I guess what I was trying to convey here is that by going through this exercise, it opened up a lot of different customer segments, even like with Teo and my group. Like I didn't think about, like we have several problems, right? Like the vast majority of our recycling doesn't actually get recycled. And, you're thinking about people with disability, and then you have to go back, what percentage of the US or global population has back problems or problems that don't allow them, that make it really difficult for them to recycle? So then you have to like start taking those market statistics and back out and into like what actually you can develop to solve, and that will, be a good product market fit.
Yeah, that's great. And one of the things that you mentioned at the start was, it's like what I heard you say in super short paraphrase is like, first we figured out what the problem was so that we could then go do some like really informed research. But it's not like you go from directive, I'm going to hang on to Teo's word there. It's not like going from directive immediately to research for what? Like, so this little activity allowed you to figure out what to go do research on. What should you validate? Which market should you go after?
Yep.
Yeah, I love, Caitlin, you said appeal to the marketplace. And I love that you sort of narrowed that down to which marketplaces and in which ways, or what ways, I guess, are they underserved? That's a really like succinct way to sort of distill that core challenge down.
And then you also have to keep into consideration your business objectives too. So it's constantly weighing that and what the company is forcing you to do, and what they need to do in order to boost their revenues and meet their board numbers, et cetera. And then also balancing it with what the customer actually needs.
Yeah.
And that's in my honest opinion, that's one of the biggest challenges that, at least from my product experience, that I have run into.
Yeah, we've been working on this North Star visioning workshop to do just that, to sort of like connect the company vision, like that 10 to 15 year vision, and like the company context where it is today, and like connecting those to market opportunities and letting those things live together in the same space, and putting sort of directional North Stars that get you to the far reaching one. It's a tough thing to do.
Yep. As usual, we got carried away and excited about talking about problem space stuff. So before you all jump, there's a few things in here for you. One is we've created templates for this specific activity, which is called abstraction laddering. There's some weird and old videos that you can watch on it. We also created like our own template that you can use. So there's a Miro version, there's a mural version. It's sort of like a simplified version of what we did today with some instructions. You can use it. Feel free to copy it, duplicate it, use it in your work. It's out in the wild. So go crazy, use it, give it to your team, see what they think about it. Feel free to iterate on top of it. If you're interested in problem framing and the broader landscape of problem framing, like prioritization, mapping it to business priorities, humanizing the problem, bringing in customer perspectives, and then ultimately reframing it, which is a much bigger scope than just doing a quick abstraction ladder. We have our problem framing toolkit. It's not free, but we included a 20% discount for everybody that came today. And then if you need our help or want to talk with us some more, we're doing these really intense and fun sessions called Winning Product Blueprints, where we kind of unpack the challenges that you're having as a product organization and give you some ideas and methods and a strategy to solve for some of those things. So if you want to have a session with Taylor and I, you can click this little link in here and book some time with us. And our friends at Product Board have this essential guide to product discovery. You have Allie who's on the call. I think Allie, you guys are going to send like a recap and just make sure that we're all sort of connected in some way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks so much for coming. Yeah, we'll follow up, just send a recap over so you have it, and would love your feedback on if events like this are helpful so we can continue to grow the community. We appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. Really fun working with everybody, and thanks for joining. Appreciate your time.